Hello and welcome to today's episode of Ask a Hypnotherapist. My name is Tanya. I am a clinical hypnotherapist out of Chicago, Illinois, and I am here with my esteemed colleague.
Hi, I'm Jazmin Calderon-Marquez, and I'm with Hypnosis with Jazmin and also Release and Conceive. And I'm a certified hypnotherapist in Florida.
And today we're going to talk about hypnosis in children. Can children be hypnotized? Is it good for them? And does it help? And when would be a good time for you to find a good hypnotherapist for your child versus other alternative healings? So,
I like this subject a lot. So my background, my master's is actually in special ed. I was a special ed teacher for 10 years and I worked in the special ed field for 15, 16 years, I think. And so actually I have hypnotized children. I've had a few clients and they are probably my most special and precious memories so far to date when it comes to hypnotherapy. You can be hypnotized at any age. The thing is, when it comes to children, you're not going to go as long as a regular hypnotherapy session. And also, you want the child to be able to, I guess, not concentration skills, but just be able to sit there or stand there and be able to like understand what you're asking of them. So depending on the maturity of the child, I would say 4 or 5 years old and up.
oh, wow. That was going to be my next question. So, the first one that we have basically not myth busted, but can children be hypnotized? And
Yes, absolutely.
yes, and absolutely. And that is because we all go under hypnosis. We have an episode talking about can you be hypnotized or can I be hypnotized? And the answer is the easy answer is yes. We all go into theta wave state right before we fall asleep, and we are still in that state in the morning when we wake up. I have not hypnotized a child. I have not. I don't know why. I do more of like trauma healing and that kind of thing. I haven't had the opportunity to work with a young one. And I brought this subject up because I saw in my Facebook community group for my neighborhood, a woman was asking about bedwetting problems for her
Mm.
child. And that will lead me into what are some of the uses for hypnosis with children?
I think it depends on the age. So like if you're thinking about like younger children or maybe bedwetting becomes more of an issue as like they get older, as long as it doesn't have like a medical basis, right? Like so there's not an actual urinary tract issue that's causing these issues. If it's more psychological or confidence in being able to, be able to stay dry all night, I would most definitely get a medical referral when it comes to bedwetting to be able to use in conjunction with whatever therapies that they're using by the medical doctor or their therapist. Bedwetting, I think, is a big one. Nightmares for all ages is a really big one. As they get older, I definitely see more people reaching out for test anxiety, driving anxiety, study skills, concentration, organization. Basically, like any issue that you have, like your child has, I think you can go to a hypnotherapist for. But I would always check with your doctor first, of course. But
Definitely.
when it comes to children, you need the permission of both guardians. And so
Okay.
sometimes that can be a little bit of a barrier for a hypnotherapist because usually I have found that usually one parent is really gung ho, like, oh my gosh, we gotta try this, it's gonna be amazing, blah, 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 blah. And then the other parent's like, no, if I'm comfortable. And legally, ethically, you really shouldn't be hypnotizing a child if both guardians are not on board.
Absolutely. And I mean, there's a lot of reasons for that. And our part in making sure that we're able to hypnotize these children within legal limits is because there's a lot of nefarious people out there. And when it comes to two parents, you want to make sure that they're on the same page for the child's best and highest good with anything. And the second thing being is that with a topic like hypnosis, since we're doing these things so we can talk about hypnosis because it's still so hugely unknown. And you always want to have your child in the trust of somebody who would rather go through all the legalities of making sure that the paperwork is correct, the doctor's orders are correct, and that you have somebody who is there to advocate for your child and have your child's best interests in heart. Some things are out of scope for some hypnotherapists. Some things, just are better when there's a team involved.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, another one that I kind of hear, like in some hypnosis forums, is parents asking to help their child be good, right? Like, oh, I want them to behave and be respectful. Well, first off, as we've discussed in previous episodes, we can't make anyone do anything they don't want to, right? So if little Johnny doesn't want to eat his broccoli and he throws it at you every time, if he doesn't want to make that change, I can't make him do anything. I'm not a puppeteer. We could guide both the parents and the child into some more better behaviors and have it more consistent, and then be a support in that. Honestly, if you're having a child that has a lot of severe behaviors, you really should turn more to a therapist, a behavior analyst, and then let us be a support system helping with the symptoms of those behaviors. Be part of a team for that.
Yeah, every behavior has a foundation,
Oh
has a
yeah.
beginning pattern, has an origin story. So the real good thing about a therapist or a family therapist or a child psychologist is they're going to know how to get to those deep root issues of why they're behaving a certain way, because we all have those.
Mhm.
We are all functioning from our subconscious patterns, and normally those patterns come through life in our childhood. So a lot of the things that you would want to help your child with are probably some things that are also coming up in you as well. So it's good to really look at the common reason for everything. That way you can treat it. Get it at its root like anything else. So I like the idea of an actual child psychologist being on the team so we can find out what's really, really going on underneath.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's for everyone's safety, and everyone, like, you just want the best for that client, and it's not always just you. Most often you do need to be part of a team for something severe like this, especially for our children. We want to do the best for them.
Yes. And the child, like, how was it when you had, I want to know how the session went.
You know, children go into hypnosis so much quicker than adults because there's a lot of less resistance, and they have such access to their imaginations. It doesn't matter whether they have aphantasia or not, like the ability to visualize or not. They just really just, I don't know, they put their whole heart into the imagination session. So I can talk about two of them. So, and I have permission to talk about both of them. My very first one, which I love this story. So this child had lost his mother a year previous, and it was coming up to her anniversary of her passing. And the grandmother was taking care of him, and her concern was that he was not crying. The child has not cried. She has not seen him ever cry. And she was really concerned. She was like, that's not healthy. That's not healthy. That's not healthy. And so
For grandma to think about that,
right,
that's a very loving thing to do for somebody.
absolutely. She was like, oh my gosh, what do I do? And so after I had talked to the teachers, I had talked to his therapist, his school counselor, and everyone was reporting really positive things about this kid. He wasn't showing any like depression or anxiety. And so when I had returned to talk to the grandmother, I said, "Well, how do you show grief?" And she goes,
That's
"Well,
good move.
well, I go to my room and I cry by myself." I was like, "That's what he's doing too."
Oh, wow.
I was like, "You are the model for how how he displays grief." I said, "So if you want him to be open about his feelings and cry and do, have that bond over how we could go through the mourning process together," I said, "You have to be the first one to show it." Um, and so this was not even hypnosis, right? This is just background stuff
Yeah.
that you do to
The
figure out what's
the
going on. Um, and so just that alone had helped a lot. She was such a sweet person. I actually sent her this book. Oh, do I have it behind me? When Children Grieve, by John James and Russell Friedman. Um, and so I sent her this book so that way she can understand the grieving process with children. And then I did do hypnosis with him. And so what his fear was that he was forgetting his mom,
oh,
like because it had been a little bit of time and he was forgetting what she looked like. And he wanted to be able to have a safe place to be able to talk to her still. Right. And so in the journey, he had created a safe place, which was the sweetest, most typical child place where it was half McDonald's and half video game like
oh, how
room,
cute.
right? And there we invited his mom to come into that space and they just chilled together playing video games and eating McDonald's. And he's always able to go back to that place and talk to her and tell her things and keep her updated in his life. And it was so beautiful. Oh my God.
I no wonder that was one of your favorite sessions. How special is that? And just to hear it from his little mouth, I'm sure probably like for the whole session, you're like, oh my God, this is so cute. You know?
So, like, so
But how amazing that you were able to help that child just emotionally reunite with those mom feelings and guide him through that. And I love this topic because I think that even though I haven't done it, I think that having hypnosis available and hypnotherapy available to children, especially teenagers too, they're dealing with so much. It was being a teenager in 2024 is not
they're
how
overloaded. They
there's
are hit by
so
so many different things in life, that on top of their own hormonal changes and their life changes, they're in such overload, which also leads them to also be more like prone to anxiety and more open to like negative influences as well. And so
social media influences as well. And then
it's
there's
big.
trends and fashion and
Yeah.
they are targeted teenagers nowadays in children, especially just
Yes.
let's just say children are so targeted for so many programs.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not talking about like special, wonderful programs. I'm talking about the complete opposite of that. The
Yeah,
paradigms,
there's a lot of
the,
negativity in this world and they're very exposed to it. Um,
yeah,
when it comes to like teenagers, there's a lot of grounding work and present moment work that needs to be like laid as a foundation. Um, yeah, they're hit with a lot.
and then even having parents who, as a parent myself, just all the things that we're even going through in our own lives, and we're trying to be that amazing parent for our kids and really just be there for them as much as we can in our own day,
Mm-hmm.
in that gap of not understanding. So I think it's so important that children have another adult that they can talk to, another adult that they can confide in. And that's one of the reasons I've always been grateful for my aunts and uncles too, because we do need to talk. And as children do need to talk and they do need to feel a safe space somewhere, and especially in their own mind. So giving that child that gift, Jasmine, is really, really amazing. And I know that you just love children, and that has always been your passion, and it's
I
so
do. I
great
love
that you
kids.
get to match that teaching with the hypnosis, so you can even help children even more with going deep into their subconscious and helping them. What are some other things too that you think would be really amazing for kids to get hypnosis with? Like, even if there wasn't like a particular problem.
Mm, I think it would be great to start a foundation in childhood when it comes to self-care, loving themselves, being able to have confidence and to be able to respond to bullies and how to handle very difficult situations. So just building the foundation from there, like I love my body, I love my mind, like I deserve things to fulfill me. Um, I think that would have helped so many of us
Yeah.
who are now in our 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and being like, oh, that is important.
I mean, because look, quite honestly, what I deal with mostly is inner child healing. That's my niche. So I like the fact that you start them off, and then as adults, I can fix whatever's left.
Yeah.
But it is inner child healing, and that is what we're fundamentally doing, even with the adults, is healing something that happened to their inner child. And I always say that, to me, my youngest inner child's only 5 minutes old, because she's affected by something that happened to her in her childhood. So when I don't know how to process that, that's when I have to go in to do shadow work. That's when I have to go in to do inner child healing. But how amazing is it, Jasmine, that you actually get to help these children do their childhood healing as children,
As
set
children,
them
right? So that
up.
way they don't grow up 20 years from now.
Yeah. And
And
and they don't carry that trauma until they're 60 years old. There's so many things when, like, if we flip the script and look at older people, and I think it would have been amazing if my mom would have had somebody help her as a child. So God bless you for helping children.
I love it.
As
It's
much as you
so much
had
fun.
throughout your entire adult career has been about children. Um, what is the youngest child you've hypnotized?
Four.
And the
Four.
oldest?
The oldest, I guess 18. 18 is considered,
Oh,
right,
wow.
the oldest because then they're adults
Yeah.
at 18, I guess. For the one, I can talk about the four one. I can't talk about the older one. Was nightmares. Was nightmares,
Nice.
and the little boy really loved superheroes and magic, and so what it was always a monster, right? Of course, like I think around 3 or 4 years old, they start having nightmares, thinking about monsters, stuff like that. But this child had like walked through a living room and saw like a monster on the TV, like, like those ads they have about horror films, and that
Mhm.
popped up. So he was like convinced this monster was out to get him. And
Oh,
so, we did like almost like a guided imagery thing where he had a magic wand and he can make himself into a superhero, right? And then we talked about what his superpowers and magic powers. We mixed it, whatever. We went with what he wanted. He wanted both.
yeah.
And first we started with something silly, right? Something that wasn't scary, like let's say, I'm trying to remember, let's say a pig, right? And then we changed the pig and we shrunk the pig and then we put the pig into a black and white picture, like all these things, like steps. And then we did it with a second stage of something that maybe is not scary but more serious, let's say like a giant spider that he was concerned with. And then we did the same exact process with the monster where he was able to freeze the monster, shrink the monster, put it into a black and white picture, throw it away, like he had full control. And then he fell asleep. He was ready. And so like, and also like some of the stuff, his mom was able to, okay, let's close our eyes, let's remember, okay, what he can do. Oh, you have this magic power, let's do it. And with his imagination, he was able to do it and fall asleep each time.
I love that. I love that you were able to just kind of dispose of the little monsters in their head and they get
Mhm.
to throw them away themselves too.
Yeah, it's their choice, right? And you could do so many different things depending on what the kid feels empowered to do. Like
Yeah.
whatever for whatever reason, that's how he felt empowered. And I would go with what the child wants, even if it sounds weird. They're like, heart explodes into a billion bugs, and they're not afraid of bugs. Cool, go with it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think our next episode should be on guided imagery and its uses and how important guided imagery is. And I'm so glad that you mentioned it, because when it comes to, and I remember how to hypnotize a child, I just have not done it yet. But I love that in our college we learned a lot about the inductions that we can use for children, the different things that make them go into trance. And do you mind going over a few of those too? That way the listeners can understand a little bit about how would you even get your child to sit down and get hypnotized?
So you know, like in like classic Hollywood movies, they use the watch, the one that like goes back and forth
Yes.
like a pendulum, right? Those eye fascinations can work with adults, but they work even better with children. Whatever it is, like for whatever reason, it works so much better. So having some kind of eye fascination, whether it's the classic pendulum or their hand to their face, I like having them like look up to the ceiling and do the eyes open, close, eyes open, close, eyes open, close, and like doing it in a way so that way it gets to a point where they just want to close their eyes.
Mhm.
Um, like we've talked in other episodes, most of the time people don't fall asleep. So most of the time my kids are like this. And I see a green room. And anyone who's just listening, I'm just closing my eyes and like swirling in a chair. And that's what they do. Because they're kids and they move all the time. And that's fine. They just do their thing and they wiggle and they go with it and you go with them.
And
Um
they're still under hypnosis, huh?
and it's still hypnosis because that's who kids are. They want
Yeah.
to move, they let them move. And I actually usually start the session. This is like for any hypnotherapist or future therapists out there. If I have a child client, I try to find out what they like ahead of time, like coloring books or um, one of my clients, we did painting rocks and I sent them the kit like through
Oh, how
Amazon.
cute.
And together, like as we're just chit chatting, we were like coloring or painting the rocks together, right? Um, like whatever's like that person's thing. And people are like, oh, but aren't you losing money? Like, listen, like let's say like a session's $100 and that kit cost me $5.
Yeah.
What does it matter? Like I'm connecting with the kid, we're having fun together, we're
And the
getting
kid's
them relaxed,
comfortable.
and the kid's comfortable.
You
Kids
know, the
want you
kid's
to play
excited
with,
about it. Yeah.
right?
They all want they want attention. They want to feel like the most important person in the room.
Mhm.
You know, and they're supposed to be.
Yeah,
And that's where I love that you take that extra time and care that just shows amazing hypnotherapy, you know,
it's
concepts at
fun.
large, man. It's the best thing that we can do for our clients is make them feel comfortable in their safe space that we're opening up for them. So kudos to you. That's a sign of a good hypnotherapist, folks. You want a good hypnotherapist, I'm telling you.
Like when you do consultations with hypnotherapists, ask them if they've had experience with children. Do they even like kids, right? Because not everyone likes kids, and
And that's okay.
and that's okay. That's okay. Um, yeah, ask them. Just be. You want to be comfortable with them, and if you're unsure, if you've never done hypnotherapy, do a session for yourself.
Yeah, that's a
Test it
great
out
idea.
yourself.
You know what? Because that will help you. Because I always agree with the fact that any change that you want to see in someone else, start with changing that in you first.
Mhm.
You know, that's the best way you can get somebody else to change, is
Yeah,
to change you.
a lot of us listen. No matter how good your life is, you could always use a hypnotherapy session as a
Oh, yes.
tune up, like just to release some steam, refocus, do some self care. The richest people in the world, they see therapists several times a year just to let off the extra steam and refocus.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's so important to do. It's a clean slate. That's why I do my sessions around the moon. So when it's naturally a good time to do it, that's when I actually do it.
Yeah.
But I think that everybody can use a hypnosis session, and I definitely, definitely recommend if you have a child that's going through some stuff and it's medically okay with the doctor, take them to hypnotherapy. It's nice for them to get just an opportunity to kind of speak their mind and be themselves for a little bit. Because that's one thing that hypnotherapists are really, really amazing at, is that safe space and letting the person be who they are.
Absolutely. Well, guys, join us next time. I think next time we're going to do guided imagery and talking about what that is. I'm sure you've heard those terms thrown around a couple times in our past episodes. But Tanya's absolutely right. We do need to go into a whole episode on what that is, because I think it's my most used tool in my toolbox.
It's definitely it's definitely been one that I've been gravitating towards myself, and getting better at it, actually. So thank you for joining us today. And if you have any questions about hypnotherapy, and if you're interested for your child to look into that subject, contact Jazmin.
Me.
I'm
If
not
not,
there.
find someone close to you. A lot of us do it through Zoom, but yeah, thank you guys so much. And like, comment, subscribe, and
Thank you.
we'll see you next time.
Bye.